everyone! So let's get started on multiplying rational expressions. Multiplying rational expressions work in the same way you would multiply fractions, except this time you have an expression. So if you saw the simplifying rational expressions video, then you'll see that expressions work in the same way, rational expressions work in the same way that fractions do, except instead of numbers, you have expressions in the numerator and the denominator. Alright, so just a review of multiplying fractions. So multiplying fractions, we have, let's say we had 4/5. Alright, let's do it with letters today. Alright, okay. We have A over B, okay, and then we have times C over D. Alright, I have a fraction A over B, and then I multiply that with C over D. This is equal to, well, you just multiply straight across, A times C over B times D. Right, so this is how multiplying rational expressions work. Just multiply straight across. If you can simplify inside of the, doing cross cancellation or within those fractions, then feel free to do so. Then you should go ahead and do that. Just because it's also simpler to cancel inside of the multiplication. All right, let's look at an example. So let's say we have 8x over, right, example, 8x over 21y cubed times 7y squared over 16x cubed. Okay, let's see. Well, for one thing, we can also go ahead and expand each of these. Alright, so this is the same thing as 8x over, 21 times y times y times y, because that's what y cubed means, times 7 times y over 16 times x times x times x. If I expanded it, this is basically what the rational expressions are telling me when they're multiplied to each other. Alright, I've got 3 y's in the bottom being multiplied to each other, 2 y's in the top with the 7 being multiplied by each other, and 3 x's in the bottom with the 16 being multiplied by each other. And I only have 1 x with the 8. So if I can start with cross cancellation, meaning that if I cancel within the multiplication, we'll see that y squared goes into y cubed. Well, 2 times, just because there's 2 y's there. So these cancel out. There goes 2 of my y's, leaving me with just 1 y. And then I have 1 x up here with the 8, and I have 3 x's down here with the 16. I can take away one of those x's just because, x divided by x cancels out, just like how the y's did, because y divided by y cancels out. Alright, and then we can go ahead and go straight forward. Well, oh, and we also have 8 and 16. 8 goes into 16 2 times, so the 8 becomes a 1 and the 16 becomes a 2. 7 goes into 21 3 times, so this one becomes a 3 and this one will become a 1. Right, because you go with the bigger number, that's the one that takes a factor. Okay, so then we have 1 times 1, which is 1, and then we have 3 times y, so we have 3y times 2x and 2 x's. Alright, so it's 3 times y times 2 times x times x. So I'm just writing everything out, and then I have, well, now you can multiply everything out in the denominator, because that's all where we really have our answer. So it's 1 over 3 times 2 is 6, and then we have y x squared. Okay, so this would be our final answer. If you wanted to, this is how, so I broke it down so you could see what is happening kind of behind the scenes. Right, but you can also do it without showing all of that work. What you can do is, well, you see that y squared goes into y cubed. Right, so I'm going to come back up to the top. So squared goes away. This one just becomes y to the power of 1. Alright, you apply the rules of rational exponents. So what's, 2 minus 3? Well, that's -1, so that's why 1 stays down here. Alright, and since it's already in the bottom, you don't need to put the -1. You just keep it 1. And then x goes into x cubed, so this now becomes x squared. And then, 8 goes into 16 2 times, and these are just the numbers that we were doing earlier. All right, so you have 1 over, what is it, 3y times 2x squared, leaving you with 1 over 6yx squared. The same thing that we have down there. All right, so there's just the two different ways that you can solve them. All right, one has, again, the first way that I showed you shows you what's happening behind the scenes, and then the second way that I showed you is the way that once you get used to it, you can use this and become more, I guess, efficient with this method.